Okay, we go. Hello. Okay, let's see. I can't hear you. Can you hear us?
I can. Apparently, it helps to turn off the mute button.
It does. Okay, there we go. All right.
Nice to see your all's beautiful faces.
Here, let me show you everyone. Dun, 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 dun. Oh. Oops. All right. Welcome to Kansas.
I love it. Just so long as there's no twisters.
So where are you joining us from?
Um, the easiest thing to say is Cincinnati, Ohio, but on the Kentucky side.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good.
But I did grow up a little bit farther south where we had plenty of tornadoes, and I'm not a fan.
Neither are we. That's what I was gonna say. We're not fans either. Thank you for the goodies, by the way.
Oh, it was wonderful to get to send them.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So we would love to just start with having you tell us a little bit about your journey into writing. I know you've written several before this book, and I don't know your numbers of how many, but so just tell us a little bit about how you got here to this point.
So I've always written to process life, and I actually had no intention of ever being published, but I was a former teacher and I love learning. And when I had to leave the teaching field because of family and other things, my husband sent me to my first writing conference ever just because I wanted to learn more about writing for myself. And God had other plans and set people in my life who said, "You need to write for God." And He gave you this voice for a reason. And they were very insistent. And then God canceled almost all of the classes I wanted to attend and forced me to take publishing classes. So God was very pushy in wanting me to pursue writing. And like every good Christian, I fought him for 6 months before before realizing God is always going to win. And so I submitted humbly and proceeded to work for the next 5, 6 years on writing craft and learning the industry and was very blessed with a contract. And this is my second series. My first series starts with Counterfeit Love. It was my debut book, and it has to do with the Secret Service. Back before they protected the president, they chased counterfeiters. So each book is about a Secret Service operative and chasing a counterfeiter and the women that kind of get in their way. um, we like to get in the way of things. And then just I'm blessed to have this book out. So I think I've got 5 books currently out with Kriegel. One's self-published. Counterfeit Truth is a novella I give away to all my newsletter subscribers. But I also put it on Amazon for people who like to buy print copies and things like that. But if you're interested in reading that, don't tell anyone I said this, but you can sign up for my newsletter and then unsubscribe and you still get the book. So it's an ebook that way. That doesn't bother me in the least. So that's kind of where I'm at. Does that answer that question well?
I think so. I think so. So this is the first and the second series.
It
So,
is.
how many, and there'll be 3 books in this series as well.
There will.
Okay. So where did you get the idea for Lydia and her story?
So Lydia's story came from a couple different places. The fact that Abraham and Lydia met while she was stealing a three-legged goat from the circus actually came from a line in Counterfeit Love because her friend Teresa made an offhanded statement about how she introduced Lydia to her future husband while they were stealing a goat from the circus. So I kind of had no choice but to make sure the story started off that way. So that was fun. But I've always grown up intrigued by the idea of somebody bringing somebody else's stories to life. And so that's kind of where that came from. That and I was still processing through a lot of like what happened during 2020 with the rioting and the what should we do when our system fails us or we feel like they failed us? What should we as Christians, how should we respond?
Well, I told him my favorite part about the first part is that she gets stuck because she's a little curvy and can't fit through the tent.
That was so much fun to write.
So thank you for writing curvy heroines. I appreciate that.
We deserve to have some representation.
That's right.
Of course, the cover does not show her quite to the degree that I wanted her to be, but they have to sell books and pretty people sell books, so you know.
That's okay. Pretty good. So you said you write to process, so you kind of had Lydia write to process too, or at least in her statement, that's pretty much what she was doing. Is that a little bit of you in that, or?
I think it's a little bit of every writer. I really had fun writing her perspective because you get to see our weird brains because we know we're weird creatures.
Definitely some quirky traits there.
No,
Out of control or so quiet.
I mean, the things she portrays, if you're curious, of her thought processes are pretty accurate. I mean, anything you go through, even if it's the worst thing you've ever been through, you're like, well, I'm sure I can use this in a story somehow. And it helps make enduring difficult things a little bit better because you're like, well, at least it's not for nothing. And then sometimes you will try out your characters on other unsuspecting people just to see what their reaction will be. That was pretty fun.
It was a wonderful blend of humor and mystery, tension, and so almost a slapstick feel to it, or melodramatic at times, and the endearing characters. There were, of course, we didn't like the Poe guy, but everybody else had something about them that was attractive and endearing, and that would make you want to have a cup of coffee with them or something. And
Good.
there's just some strong characterization there. I appreciated reading.
Oh, well, I'm glad. That was my hope. And as far as the dynamics between the melodrama and the humor, my family was actually going through some very difficult things at the time. I'm a caregiver for my mother-in-law, and she had broken her neck.
Oh.
So I was caring for her, and it was a very intense season. And I go two directions. I will go slapstick humor to cope with things, and then I will take care of fictional characters to vent out my frustrations. So that book has way more dead bodies than I've ever had in any book and probably ever will in any book. So processing life.
Is this your first book where you had dead bodies?
Um, there's probably somebody who dies on screen or off screen in almost every book.
If you psychoanalyze yourself, you would say.
I'd say I need therapy, but that's what writing books is for. I think we all need a little therapy. There is nothing wrong with it. And actually, book 2 is Nora's story, and it has to do with mental health and family members who are supporting those with mental health struggles. So, I not every book is quite so dynamically humorous and melodramatic, but it's always not. I try not to leave things super heavy either, but I try to tackle the hard things.
So is each girl in their honor society, what was it called? Their honor group
The
So
Guardians.
they each get their own book.
They
Okay.
do. So Nora is book 2 and Flossie is book 3, which leaves Teresa kind of hanging out there. That's because she was in book 1 of my last series. So Counterfeit Love, if you want to read Teresa's story, is already out there. And you don't see the other Guardians because they didn't exist when I wrote that book. I didn't know they were supposed to be part of the story. So if I ever get the chance to rewrite it, I will go back in and add Nora and Flossie. Lydia is in there, but Lydia and Abraham are both in there, but not Nora and Flossie.
So is this a prequel, like a earlier series than that timeline?
Yeah, so silly me. I like to break the rules when it comes to the publishing world. um, so I didn't, so Teresa's book was the one I got my first contract with. And I knew I wanted to write Lydia and Abraham's story, but that would have had to happen before Counterfeit Love happened. So I had to write an entire series before Counterfeit Love happened. And that came with its own set of challenges because you don't remember your characters' personalities and different quirks and things like that 4 years after you wrote the story and have to go back and bring them back in as side characters. So I actually had to rewrite Lydia and Abraham. I had to go back and reread Counterfeit Love so that I could write Lydia and Abraham, or Lydia and Abraham and Teresa correctly because my editor got on me. She's like, these are not the same people. I'm like, oh, okay. So we forget our own characters.
So do you plot everything that's going to be happening in your book, or are you surprised sometimes with things like that?
So I like to pretend I'm a plotter. So I will start plotting the books and I will have this grand, beautiful plan. And then I'll start writing it, and my characters become real. And they say, no, we don't want that to happen. And then from there, it's just like, okay, let's find out what happens today. And I generally have an idea of where we're going. I just have no idea how they're going to get us there. So I pretend I'm a plotter, but really, I'm not. I'm just a slave to my characters.
So there was a quote on page 135.
I grabbed my book so that I would know.
That said, if he gave Miss Pelton a thread of compassion, she'd unravel his whole neatly woven world. I love that quote. It is so today in terms of how we are relating to each other, I think, and that we can't allow people to be different than we want them to be or expect them to be, but they are.
Mm-hmm. I had fun writing that line. I can even remember writing it.
And the next book's coming out when?
Each book comes out, I think, March of each year. So March 2026 will be Sung in the Shadows is the book. The cover is not yet out there, and neither is the blurb, but my newsletter people should be hearing from me hopefully this coming month. I'm just waiting on pre-order links to go up because I have all that stuff that I get to share. I'm just waiting to be able to share it.
So the counterfeit books, are they meant to be read in order?
So I like to write all my books where you don't have to read them in order, but you'll enjoy them more if you will. So you can pick up whichever books catch your fancy, and you should still be able to follow the story without any problem. I try to give enough backstory about each of the previous characters' books to help you follow along with anything that gets mentioned.
Do you have the other books?
I think I have one set of the others.
Oh, okay.
If not,
In order, yes.
yes.
And they're available in all formats if you're an audiobook person. So
I actually listened to this one in audiobook. I thought the narrator did a great job.
Counterfeit Love is the only one I've actually listened to. And I only listened to it because when I was trying to read it in the print format to re-familiarize myself, I couldn't turn a page without trying to want to edit it. So An audiobook forced me to get through the story. So I know Stephanie Cozart did the first series. I'm not sure who did this series, but I'm glad to know she did a good job.
And your humor sometimes came at unexpected times. Like on 142, when Abrams regarding her, and he said, you know, he regards her escaping curls and her contrite expression. A flutter of anticipation filled his midsection. It had to be gagged.
Yeah. I was afraid I was going to get so much flack for that one, but I couldn't help it. I have boys. So I have a 20-year-old boy and a 16-year-old boy, and of course a husband. So we get all the gas jokes. It's just, it works its way in. And that kind of humor, my random pops of humor is kind of trademarked to me. It just kind of comes out because I'm quirky like that. I can't stop it.
Well, it's fun.
Well, I'm glad you enjoy it. Sorry, this is bouncing a lot.
It's okay.
Did you have a favorite character to write in this book?
I really liked writing Clara, Paige's Abraham's little sister. She's like the reader inside of all of us. Nobody wants us to be interrupted, and we will fight to the death to read those last 15 pages. My oldest son has a habit of, if he sees me on the last few pages of my book, he will try to steal it and hide it. So it's become a game. And so that kind of snuck its way into the story that way.
I used to think that was God's way of reminding me it was fiction and not reality. And
Yeah.
the kids always needed something right at the best part. I was like, oh,
Yep. Yep. Love our families.
yes.
Yeah, we did comment about how naturally you incorporated the faith message in the storyline. I appreciated that.
That I pray with every book that it comes out naturally, and I process it naturally. Like, I don't go in with a message planned. I just go by whatever God feels like he's leading the story needs to be. Like, I knew that Lydia would wrestle with justice. I just didn't know what that would look like or what the answers would be or anything like that. So I process as I write, and I want the spiritual threads to feel natural, because we don't all suddenly come to a realization and change immediately. It's always a hard-won fight when we realize something in our life needs to change.
I like the part where Lydia was in the room pacing, talking out loud to God. And Abraham thought that there was somebody else in there. And to me, that is so real. I find myself quite often verbally talking out loud to God. So it was refreshing to know that other people do that too.
Yes, and I can confirm I do that myself as well. There's just something, there's a special connection when you're talking out loud to God. Even if you can't audibly hear him, it feels, I don't know, more personal, more real. And I'm less likely to get distracted in my own brain.
Mhm.
You gonna share your quote?
My quote.
Yeah,
Oh,
your quote.
okay, my favorite quote. We have people that bring in their favorite quotes, but
Oh, fun.
this is on page 318, and Lydia's dad's talking to Abraham, and let's see, where was it? Oh, yes. So he's talking about about change, and
Mhm.
and Abraham says, "That sounds rather utopian, sir. It's only utopian if you believe you can save everyone. Our job is to shine the light. People must choose for themselves whether to walk toward or away from it. We can't force them, but we can offer the truth." I get goosebumps every time I read it. And it was at night, and I was reading it, almost falling asleep, and I said, "I gotta remember that page. I gotta remember that."
Oh,
So.
I'm glad. That bit of insight actually I mean, it was refined through God, but one of my processes whenever I do um, a job or anything is I interview the people who actually do that job. So I was very blessed to talk with a seasoned detective who is a fellow Christian, and he walked me through his whole experience and the general experience of police officers and the struggles they face and the wrestling they face. And there was a time when he was a detective over child crimes, and that is a very horrific thing. He didn't share details because he doesn't believe anyone who doesn't have to should be exposed to those. But he was really questioning whether he should continue doing this job. If there's so much evil in this world, how can I even begin to make a difference? And he had a mentor who had said something along those lines to him. And that is what kept him going and helped him mature in his faith and understanding his role that God had given him as a detective. Um, and how, even though it may not look evident that he's making a difference, he's making a difference in at least one person's lives. So he can't bring up conversations about God. But he says, you would be so surprised at how many criminals, when they're sitting in the back seat of that car, will bring God up themselves, and then I can talk to them and tell them the truth and spread God's light. And he says it's really amazing to see how God will work that way. So pray for our police officers. I mean, they get a bad rap, but man, do they do some really hard things.
Um, I particularly like the scene when Lydia was with her father when she had to tell him that the newspaper was coming out. And I just like the way he handled the character of her father. He was firm with her, but he loved her. And that relationship was so strong that finally those words
Mhm.
hit her heart just because of the connection with her dad. And eventually God used that to bring about the full restoration versus the detective. Um,
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that you took such a strong stand with Abraham going after her the way he did. You know, I mean, he just, and that didn't turn her around
Hmm.
when, you know, he found out she was, and even when he found out that she was writing romance novels, you know, he had his set opinion, but even, you know, he came really hard on accusing her of almost being responsible for killing,
Hmm.
you know, and that was kind of, so I don't know, did you do that deliberately that he was so hard and her dad was so, and that brought the restoration, or?
So my characters become their own people. And so that's initially what drove it. I didn't plan for any of that. Part of Abraham's reaction was based in the historical perspective that culturally was going on around dime novels at that time. And so he was coming from this place of these things have corrupted you. And I can speak from the experience of my oldest son, who, bless his heart, believes it's his job to tell people what they're doing wrong and why they're sinners, and in a very abrasive way. He has a heart for Christ. He just doesn't necessarily go about it in the most gentle, loving way that could be better received if he approached it differently. So a little bit of my son worked into that because I always want people to experience real responses from other people. You're going to have those hard-nosed people who are just offensive in the way that they attack you. on when they believe you've done something wrong. And then you've got the people who, hopefully, I pray that you have in your life, the people who will lovingly tell you that you've made a wrong decision and that Christ still loves you, but there are consequences and you have to face those consequences. Um, I didn't grow up with that, but I've been blessed since I've come to Christ and have joined a beautiful church that they've demonstrated this, and I've seen it demonstrated from other men, and my husband's amazing. We've thankfully never had to cross anything quite that big of a bridge, but anytime something comes up, it's always done gently. So I want people to see that it's out there because I didn't believe it was out there until I saw it myself in the Christian church. So
There.
That's good.
Okay. It's always good to know where the author is coming from. And then just taking a scene and you're going, I don't like that scene at all.
mhm.
If I see clearly now, I see your perspective. So that was good.
Yeah.
So that-
There's always going to be things that challenge us, and or I hope there are things that challenge our perspectives in books and make us question, well, why is this person coming at it from this direction? Just because it helps us to understand the real people in our lives that come at us like that.
Well, and like you said, see, Abraham is established as a believer. And for him, that hard of a line. And yes, I understand the culture in 1800 and what women were supposed to do and not supposed to do. It's just that it was just a little over the edge.
Unfortunately, I've got some very over the edge people in my life.
Definitely those people.
And
Yeah.
my own son has experienced that early on in a church that was so just hard nosed. Yes, it's, but I just, like I said. I'm
Yeah,
just-
no, I'm glad it helped give perspective as well. So
Well, I feel like so many of the younger people are idealistic, and
mhm.
with age comes that maturity. of
Right.
Yeah,
something.
I'm praying very hard for that maturity to come on him, and for Christ to really get a hold of him in teaching him how to lovingly confront fellow Christians, um, in a way that's a little more God honoring than he's currently doing.
Well, there are a lot of people out there that need that. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's 16 and that.
Oh no, he's the 20-year-old.
20-year-old, okay. But
My
he's,
my 16-year-old is way more even keeled and laid back and so much easier to parent.
I've always heard that it's 5 years on either side of 30 for men.
yeah.
And he's ADHD, so you got to add some extra time in there. So, but
So-
he's a wonderful, good boy. I don't want anyone to think ill of him. We all have our own struggles.
So you have book 2 done?
Yes.
Have you started book 3?
I am currently at the 50% mark of drafting book 3. So I actually, I have some close friends that when I get to the 50% mark, I send it out to them and ask for their feedback. And I'm currently rewriting the first 5 chapters because they were not the right first 5 chapters. So they're very invaluable to me. But yeah, it's a process.
Definitely. Well, does anybody else have any thoughts, questions? Thank you for giving us Lydia and her story and her stories. I was trying to explain to people, it's about an author who writes, it was like, I couldn't say what it was about very well. And they're like, the author writes fic? No, it's about an author. So, anyway, who writes 2 different kinds of books. Anyway.
Yeah, I struggle to describe it to other people, so you're in good hands.
Yes, well, thank you very much. And we look forward to book 2 coming out
In
in
March.
6 months or 8 months or, yeah.
March.
So, and we've got the old series we can
Yeah.
do. So the first series.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's really an honor that you guys would take time out of your lives to read my books. Like that is a huge gift because there are so many wonderful books out there. So I appreciate it. And I appreciate your time and inviting me in to get to talk about books with you.
Yes. Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you. You too.